When we think about the history of the NFL, we usually think about dynasties, championships, Hall of Fame speeches. But today, we're going to talk about a totally different kind of story. It's about a team you've almost certainly never heard of, whose legacy isn't about winning it all. It's about something way, way more important.
Yeah, didn't think so. And don't worry, you're not alone. For decades, the Hammond Pros have been basically lost to time, just a little footnote in the NFL's massive history book. But they are the perfect example of a really powerful idea. Sometimes the most important stories aren't found in the winner's circle. And trust me, the Hammond Pros were rarely in the winner's circle. To put it bluntly, their record was just awful. We're talking 5 wins total, across 7 full seasons in the NFL. I mean, by any measure you can think of, they were one of the league's all-time biggest failures. But that's just where the story starts. Okay, so to really understand why this team's legacy is so wild, we first have to be completely honest about how they played on the field. If you look at the official record books, the picture is, well, it's pretty bleak. On paper, this was a team that just could not win. Just look at these numbers from 1920 all the way to 1926. It is just a sea of losses. You've got 2 seasons right there where they didn't win a single game. Their absolute best year, their peak, was 1924, when they managed to go 2-2. So on paper, the case is closed, right? This was just a bad football team. But this is where the story starts to get a lot more complicated. See, to really get the Hammond Pros, you have to completely forget about the NFL you watch today. Back in the 1920s, the league wasn't this polished, multi-billion-dollar machine. It was chaotic. It was a semi-pro scramble, and teams like the Pros operated in a way that seems totally bizarre to us now. The Pros were what was known back then as a traveling team. It's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. They didn't have a real home stadium. They were basically barnstormers, just going from town to town, playing wherever they could find a game and get paid. And as you can imagine, that was a huge, huge disadvantage. And get this, the team called the Hammond Pros from Hammond, Indiana, they played only 2 official league games there in their entire history. Their unofficial home field was often Cubs Park over in Chicago. Just think about that for a second. A team with no real home, made up of local guys who all had full-time jobs and barely had time to practice. But here's the first really big twist in their story. The team's co-founder, a guy named Dr. Alva Young, was literally in the room where the NFL was born. He was at that legendary meeting in Canton, Ohio, that created the whole league. So, even with that terrible record, the Hammond Pros were a founding franchise of the NFL. And their status as a founding team, that's just the beginning. This is where their story completely pivots from being about failure to being about something truly incredible. Because this tiny, struggling, forgotten team ended up being a home for some of the most important people in the history of football. Ever heard of a guy named George Halas, Papa Bear, the legendary founder, coach, and owner of the Chicago Bears? Well, before all of that, one of his first tastes of pro football was a brief stop playing for a team in, you guessed it, Hammond, back in 1919. A true founding father of the league got his start with this tiny team of losers. But as incredible as the Halas connection is, this next part, this is the team's true legacy. In an era when the league was almost entirely white, the Hammond Pros became this quiet, unsung place for black athletes. Of the just 9 African-American players in the entire league in those early years, 6 of them played for Hammond. That wasn't just weird back then, it was revolutionary. And the absolute centerpiece of that revolutionary legacy is one person, Fritz Pollard. Pollard wasn't just another player, he was a legit superstar. But in 1925, while he was with the Pros, he did something that had never been done before. He became their player coach, making him the very first African-American head coach in NFL history. It's a massive history-making achievement that happened on one of the league's smallest, most forgotten teams. So, with a legacy this important, what happened? Why did a team with such a groundbreaking history just fizzle out? Well, as it turns out, the way they ended is just as telling as the way they played. In one of history's great ironies, the NFL's own success is what ultimately spelled doom for the Pros. As the league started to get bigger and more professional, it decided it needed to get rid of the smaller, less stable teams. All those traveling teams, the semi-pro outfits like Hammond, they were cut loose. The very league they helped create had simply outgrown them. So, in the end, the Hammond Pros won just 5 games. But they also helped launch the career of George Halas and gave Fritz Pollard the platform to shatter one of the most significant barriers in all of American sports. Their story is the ultimate proof that a team's importance can't always be found in the win column, which really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many more incredible stories are out there just waiting to be discovered on the losing side of history?